horror, science fiction, general fiction, dark fantasy, and mystery. Several different genres that each offer their own unique perspective. Most of the time, we see or hear about authors that specialize in one or the other, yet this author happens to cover them all. From his highly rated Miki Radicci series to his science fiction Blunt Force Kharma series to the many, many in between, Mike Purfield gives us a little bit of everything and so much more. He has worked as a book reviewer, screenwriter, business writer, and editor, and today he is here with me to talk about it all. Hi, how are you?
Hey, what's up?
Thanks so much for coming today. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, first of all, tell us about the very first series you wrote.
That would be the Miki Radicci series. And that came about kind of by accident. It wasn't intended to be a series, it was intended to be a one off. But then towards the end, I just had this loose thread, I guess you could say, not to spoil anything. I had this loose thread, and if you read the book, you'll know what it is. And I decided to exploit that one little bit of thread and to
Right.
11 books.
And that one's actually become one of your most popular. What you're best known for?
Yeah, it's over 10 years old since the first book, maybe 11 years, and it sells more than what I'm doing now. You know, so
I have to
it
relate
keeps
what you're
going.
doing now.
Thank you. Yeah, it's hard to try to. I don't know if I'm topping it or whatever. It's just I'm just doing what I'm doing, but for some reason, people still like it, or they're discovering it and they're buying one after the other. So,
That's good. There's nothing wrong with that. That's always good. Okay, so obviously you do write in several genres. I've
mhm.
seen horror from you, science fiction, general fiction, like I said, mystery. But what would you say is your go to genre? What do you prefer writing over anything else?
Oh boy. Maybe mystery because I've done so much. It seems kind of easy in a way. Um, but lately I've been trying. I mean, it's been so many books. Always trying to push myself to doing different things. Lately, I've been writing a lot of sci-fi, and to counterbalance that, while I'm in the middle of the other series, the Radicci Sisters series. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so now see, you and I met through a horror website, but
Mhm.
I don't see a lot of horror from you. Is that something you're interested in trying to pursue more of, or just kind of keeping it low key?
I think it's a gray area. I think what I have in there is, I mean, for example, for the Radici stuff, there's demons and
Mm-hmm.
ghosts and serial killers, which are all horror kind of things in my eyes. But
Right.
maybe it's not as hardcore because it blends in with other stuff, and maybe it falls into the dark fantasy realm, which is
Yeah.
also under the horror umbrella. You know,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's all open to interpretation.
I still say you should go with the vampires or werewolves like you spoke of before.
Yeah, well, it's sort of in my earlier writing, from 2000, between 2001 and 2009, maybe it's more horror under the Mike Purfield name. Um,
Okay.
right now, I write under the M.E. Purfield name, for those who don't know. And, I think they were more like people getting in horrific situations and trying or successfully or failing getting out of them.
The more of like real life horror, for
Yeah,
instance.
more I guess monsters. Had published some vampire and werewolf under that name back in the
Okay.
day. So
So, well,
I
how
don't know. I
long
guess
did
I
it
just don't like
generally?
to repeat myself too much.
Yeah. Oh, no, I get that
Yeah,
totally.
yeah.
Well, how long does it generally take you to write a book?
I usually write short books, around 40 to 50,000 words. That could take anywhere to a month and a half, depending on the length.
I see. That's not long at all. Wow.
And then I wrote the City That Eat Islands books. Those were three books, and they were first one was 80,000 words, and then they just kept getting longer. Each book got longer and longer, and I kind of planned that in a way. I wanted to really explore and do something thick, but I don't think I'll do that again for quite a while.
Are you planning on releasing anything as far as like you have your Patreon where
Mhm.
you send out the short stories and the little small books and thus and such, but are you actually planning on doing a full length novel or even novella anytime soon for general population and such?
Oh well, everything from Patreon does eventually get released. I'm fairly up to date as far as the novels are concerned. It really depends on how I feel about the situation and the publishing world and stuff like that.
Do you self
um,
publish or are you with a publisher?
I self-publish.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you prefer that over working with an actual publisher, or which has worked out best?
Yeah, because I've spent those 9 years between 2001 and nine trying to get things done, and I've got up to about signing contracts, but then either they backed out or I backed out, and it's just frustrating. And publishing moves so slow for
Yeah.
me. I could do on my own. I could do 4 novels a year, which is what I do. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say, you never slack off when it comes to what you put out there. You're constantly putting work out. It's fascinating, honestly. I don't know how you can do it. When it comes to writing your stories, when you're preparing for a story, you get an idea. Do you do a lot of research, or is it all just stuff that just comes to you?
um, not much research. When I did the cities book, it took place in 1920 and 1960s, and then I did do research for those. But for majority of my book, it's kind of like if I'm stuck on a fact or procedure or whatever, I'll just look it up as I'm writing, and then
Okay.
incorporate it in there. Um, yeah,
That's
I don't
fascinating.
know. I read a lot of nonfiction, so stuff gets stuck in my head, and then I can use it in the story. You know.
Right.
So
Okay. So I've heard a lot of authors say that book reviews are important. Then there are those that they could care less and stuff. How do book reviews specifically affect you? Do you actually take the time to read them? Do you pay attention to what your readers say, or how does that
yeah,
work for you?
I read them. I don't do much book reviews anymore or send them out. But readers do leave me reviews.
Right.
Um, uh, they're interesting. Sometimes people read them and they really get them. They get the stories, which is great because that's my objective, at least that I hope for. I mean, I write for myself, and hopefully other people will follow me or walk with me on that. And then there are people who just I don't even know if they even read the book. They describe things that are like, "What are you talking about?" Like two characters are friends, and they describe them as the readers thinks they're brother and sister. It's just they pick up on different things, and I don't know how they got that. The other person didn't get that. Yeah, so reviews are kind of weird and whatever. And I mean, if it's something's I never really got a generally bad review. Like, I should go kill myself and, take the book off sale and stuff like that. I'm a horrible person.
I would hope not.
I mean, I've gotten because, a lot of my stuff also falls under young adult YA.
Right.
And they say, oh, no, this is not for kids. And whatnot. Like, okay. You never read, M.E. Kerr or S.E. Hinton and all those other people. They were pretty for their time, But, they say, this is not for kids. I don't recommend this, whatever. It's like, okay, whatever.
Right. Well, I've noticed in the time that I've known you, this isn't necessarily about your writing, but I guess it kind of is. You are autistic, and you talk about that a lot on social media. You don't hold back. Yeah. So does that affect your writing, or how does it affect your writing?
You mean my writing process or just
anything? Your writing process, your thoughts, anything. Does it affect it in any
Yeah,
way?
I think it does affect it, and I mean, it's my neurology. It's what I was born with, and my cells and neurons were formed. So it's weird though, because you know, autism is all about your brain, and all through writing the Miki Radicci stuff, they're psychics, right? But she's going through all this stuff that she gets like persecuted for her brain, for what her brain can do. And it was just when I got diagnosed, it's just weird how I kind of thought in retrospect, like, that's kind of like being autistic. So I was writing like an autistic character in a way, but she wasn't autistic in the story, but because I wasn't autistic. I mean, I didn't find out until later.
Right.
And it's just weird how it kind of infected that series and probably other stories too. But as far as my brain goes, yeah, I guess for me, I have a strong concentration for things in my own little world, I guess you could say, or create world building. There's a lot of autistic writers that do like fantasy, um, so they're really into world building and whatnot. Creating languages, maps, but in a way, that's not really me. But I'm more heavy into like character and plot. So that's my obsessions for that. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just something a little bit more specific to keep going on that. How does it affect my with my readers? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm active on Instagram with my autism. At least my perspective of it. I mean, we're not all the same. And people have, I don't know, I think people reach out to me more about that than probably my writing. Like, I've had people who work with kids, speech therapists, or some people who thought maybe they could be autistic or something, and they found out that they were, and they thank me and whatnot for helping them, I don't know, shine a light or just making them aware of themselves or something. Because, or teachers, enlighten them how these kids may be thinking that they're teaching that are on the
Yeah.
spectrum. So that's kind of nice as far as how it affects my writing.
That's awesome. I actually like that. That's cool.
No.
So, okay, a fun question. What would you say is your writing kryptonite?
Oh, you mean something that doesn't get me to write?
Something
Uh,
that like blocks you.
I guess my health. When I'm sick, I can't write.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like when I feel miserable, like, because I used to get, before COVID, I used to get a lot of respiratory infections, like a couple a year. And it would just knock me out for like a week or so, and I just no mood to write, coughing or whatever. Maybe I had COVID. I don't, towards the end, I might have had COVID for all I knew, but I thought it was a respiratory infection. But yeah, I mean, I because when I get sick, I get I get depressed and down, and that affects your writing too. I think mental health and physical health, however minimal,
Yeah,
is, I think, is important for creativity.
definitely.
So
Definitely.
that could be it.
Do you believe in like writer's block and such, or do you think that's just a state of mind or a cop out, maybe?
I think it's more like writer's fear. People have writer's fear.
Okay.
They're scared of revealing their creativity, which is always probably their id, not their ego. And who's gonna think, what is this gonna kill my career? Is anyone gonna like this? Is anyone gonna understand it? What's my mom gonna say? you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what blocks. I think a lot of that is probably blocks a majority of people. Um,
Have you ever suffered from it, or do you just put it out there and see how it goes?
no, not really. I don't think so. I've had periods where I haven't written for like maybe a month or so, but that was a self-imposed vacation because I just finished something major.
Yeah.
I just want to take a break and recharge. But lately, I've been on a steady process of 1,000 words a day, compared to last year, which was 2,000 words a day, because I wrote 8 novels, and I wanted to take a break and work on short stories for a little while. So I've been slowing down that, but as far as the stuff I want to come up with, no, because back when I was writing novels, I was writing in my notebook short story ideas. So now I can work on them, and they kind of spark things. So.
Do you prefer writing short stories over full length, or do you have a preference?
I like short stories for their immediacy. I could do one in maybe like a week or
Mm-hmm.
less, you know,
Yeah.
7 days or less. And there's a sense of accomplishment when you're finishing it. You know, you get that, as opposed to a novel, like, okay, I got a couple more weeks left.
Yeah.
When am I going to get to this part? But then novels I do within a month or so, and then it's probably a lot quicker than the average person, or at least the average writer who takes their time. So I shouldn't complain as far as that that immediacy. I completed something feeling.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I will say, your short story collection, The Morrows, that one was one of my favorites. Some of the stories in there were so great.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my first kind of venture into sci-fi, hardcore sci-fi. So that's nice that I wrote that.
Do you so earlier we were talking about or you said, actually, excuse me, where the book reviews and listening to what the readers want or like or prefer, do you specifically write for what the readers want, or do you write what you like?
No, I just write. When you're independent, you should definitely write for what you like. Um, don't worry about if one reader might not understand it, but another reader might. I mean, not everybody understands the same stuff. I mean, you just look at literature out there. Some people don't understand James Joyce's Ulysses, and other people do. Some people don't understand William Burroughs' Naked Lunch, and some people do. Or American Psycho. I know you brought that up a couple months ago. Some people don't get that, and some people do. So as an indie, I definitely just write to what interests me, what I want to read. What I would like to read, because I always think that a writer should do better than their idols, or try to. I guess like there's an expression, kill your idols, and definitely should do that and try to make things build upon what they started, or what you thought was cool, make it better.
Well, who is your idol?
For writing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You. Robert McCammon, Clive Barker, Kathy Koja, Caitlin Kiernan. I got lots. James Joyce, Nick Monotas. I read a lot. Barry Gifford. He's a Southern crime writer that I really love. S.P. Somtow, The Terrible Tie. He was one of the forefathers of splatterpunk in the 80s. And they kind of inspire me, and I like to read them over and over, and just kind of use that inspiration to put in my writing, and not necessarily mimic it, but just try to copy that feeling to like, oh shit, get that oh shit feeling and bring it on to my readers, see how they did it, and just try to grab their essence, I guess, in a way, within my voice, of course.
I'd say you're succeeding. I mean, in all honesty.
I try.
So, of all time, I'm talking from childhood on, what would you say is your favorite book? Like, what got you hooked on reading, and actually did that help you to want to pursue writing?
Well, I don't know. When I was a kid, like 15, 16, I read a lot of horror. Probably a lot that I don't read now, except for Clive Barker and Robert McCammon and some of those other people I mentioned. But I read Dean Koontz, almost all of Dean Koontz, and then I kind of grew up and I realized he only writes 2 kind of books. He repeats that structure all the time. Not that they're bad books,
right?
I just wanted to move on. And Brian Lumley, who did the Necroscope series, I read all those, and just Skip Inspector. I don't, I think everything kind of made me that combined with movies made me want to try telling stories, and I did. I wrote some novellas as a kid,
Mhm.
um, maybe even a book, and then I kind of moved on to screenplays because I really was into film and special effects. And so I took a break for a while and did, went to film school and whatnot, and worked on screenplays for a long time until 2001 when I just so I need a break from all this shit. This isn't just writing books and prose. Start writing prose. So.
Yeah. Well, see, actually just learned. I, I don't know how I just learned this, but that
Mhm.
you were a screenwriter at one point, or you did
Mhm.
write, do screenwriting. I had
Mhm.
no idea.
Yeah,
Was that something you were really passionate about for like a good while before you decided, to produce
yeah,
books?
definitely. I was excited about it. I wrote it as much as I write stuff now. Screenwriting is a lot more technical.
Mm-hmm.
So it involves rewriting as opposed to prose. That doesn't really, for me, doesn't involve a lot of rewriting, if anything. Because you're dealing with a lot of locations, acting, people. It's so much to juggle, and you have to do it in such a minimal way of like a blueprint, and so I was obsessed with that for a while. I had some struggles with agents and stuff, and then I got tired of it. And it's just funny because after I got tired of it, a friend of mine hooked me up with this other guy, an indie filmmaker in New York, and I wrote some stuff for him, but it never got produced. So, but he paid me. So, that's um,
So, what's been produced that we might possibly know by you?
no, I for the indie stuff. No, I just got paid. Nothing got produced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
did some stuff for a guy named Frank Xavier, who's still around, I believe, but he's producing his daughter's films. She did a movie called something with a paraplegic. There's a guy. So it's a play on the word paraplegic. It's a guy who gets beaten down and by a gang or whatever, and he's a paraplegic, but he usually has his ability to get his revenge, on people. So he's still around.
Huh. That actually sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's on
So,
Tubi, if I can remember the name. I'll try to think about it.
yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so before we go, what are some parting words? What's one thing you would tell any aspiring writer or even just a book reviewer that, helped you make it through?
For an inspiring writer, just try not to have that fear that I mentioned before, the
Mm-hmm.
supposed writer's block fear. Just do it for yourself, and don't worry about what other people are going to think, because there's always going to be someone there that will probably most likely get you. You know, um, don't this whole beta reader stuff business and editors and stuff like that. You don't really, I mean, copy editing, of course, is important for indie publishing, but you're at the point where you got to express your voice. And sometimes people don't understand me. Even when I'm talking to you, people might not even understand me. So, but someone else would. Not everybody can understand everybody. So that's for writing. And for book reviewers, I don't know. Be nice.
Yeah. Nobody wants to hear negative.
Yeah, I mean, if it's okay to say, this is not my thing. I'm not into musicals or whatnot. That's okay.
Yeah.
But there, I don't know. We just live in such a cruel and sensitive society lately, especially the last 10, 15 years. It's been crazy,
Oh, yeah.
and it's been affecting everything. And I think it affects publishing and people who read books. Sound off about books and movies and whatnot. So.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has their opinion, but just like you say, be nice about it.
Yeah, yeah. Or be
Well, thank you
detailed.
so much for
Oh,
coming
you're
on
welcome.
today.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. And I will make sure all of your links are posted below for you.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Have a great one.
Are you too?
And there you have it, folks. Mike Purfield has become a very good friend. And honestly, I'm so honored that he came for us today. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, be sure and like and subscribe below. I will put all the links to any of his information also in the description. Be sure and check him out. Look for his Patreon. Be sure to show some support. Thanks again for coming, guys.